What the heck is going on?
How's it going, everybody? Can you hear us?
Yep, we can hear you guys. Well,
yep.
I'm on. You're good?
What do we know about Trump's foreign policy?
Perfect. Okay, I think I was on the YouTube one, but I think I got rid of it. But good evening,
Any
everybody.
background noise? Are you guys good? Am I good?
You're good.
Nope.
But I was going to say, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition here of the NE Patriots Talk channel. It's your host, DTN. We got Dustin, we got Andy, and we got Austin here. And today we're going to be discussing the biggest question, the wide receiver room here for the New England Patriots. So, as we all know, that the offseason it's almost starting. We got some OTAs. We almost in about a month we got rookie minicamp mandatory minicamp, and then we got training camp. But we want to focus on like the current wide receiver room because that's the huge question mark. It doesn't mean that we have the best wide receiver room. It's that we have one of the more crowded wide receiver rooms. So here I'm going to be presenting to you all the stats for all the wide receivers that we currently have. Currently, there are 12 wide receivers for the New England Patriots. However, we're just focusing on the big names, not including some of the UDFAs or some practice squad members that we had last season. So, how are y'all doing?
Yeah, so many other.
We're doing really well. We're doing really well, guy. Man, Dow, Austin, Sgt Moonshine. How are you guys today?
I'm feeling it. I'm great. I'm having I'm not having the best week, but as far as talking football, I'm definitely down. I'm always down for talking some football, especially this receiver room. Going to be an interesting talking point.
It's going to be really interesting to watch. I mean, again, not my easiest day either, but like I've said earlier, always psyched to talk football with you three. It's always a fun time.
Always good to get with the boys and talk football. It's the best pastime.
How are we doing, Austin?
Yeah, doing good. I'd have to say ditto as well. I haven't had the best day. I got something stuck in my eye, and just recently got it out, but my eye's all watery and bloodshot. But I'm glad I got it taken care of, and I'm happy I got the chart for you guys, and that we get to discuss our favorite football team.
Been there, done that. Happened to me in summer camp one year. I had a bee legit sting me in the eye. It was entirely unfun.
Oh man,
that's unfortunate. But before we get started with the discussion, make sure you all like, subscribe, make sure, and it's completely free. It helps support this channel. And at the end of this discussion, if you want to type in all of your questions or comments, you can do so here in the chat, or you can call in using the link in the top of the chat. By the way, we will be doing call-ins. Make sure to keep it at like a reasonable time, like for around like 2 to 3 minutes, because the whole point of the show is that it's supposed to be like an hour long or maybe less. So make sure that we're respectful for all the other folks here in the chat, if possible. I think Thomas is the only one currently in the chat. Hello, Thomas. But everyone else who is joining in, just making sure that you keep yourselves entertained as we're discussing all the juicy details on the wide receivers. So let's begin. So right here, we have a whole list of wide receivers. So where should we start? We should start with our big name, Stefon Diggs. So we all know that Stefon Diggs is coming off on a major injury, which I think it was an ACL tear. So he was on his way to hit his 1K yard season, but unfortunately he did suffer an ACL injury. But he has been a reliable wide receiver one. Unfortunately, he does have some character issues on and off the field. But what do you guys thought on Stefon Diggs and potentially making the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has the best chance of making the team. We don't hand out a contract like that unless you have faith that he's gonna, recover from the ACL tear and play for us in 2025. I do think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I know that's like a bold statement, but I'm pretty high on Stefon Diggs, even coming off of the injury. just looking at past history, I mean, consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and he was even on pace to have another one with Houston. So definitely excited. I think it's an easy, like, you just pencil it in and he makes the team. And if it doesn't end up working out, the contract we did give him is kind of top heavy in the sense of we can just cut him loose after this year and pretend it never happened. But hoping for the best.
What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, I do like that. I hadn't seen nothing on Stephon Diggs' contract yet, so I didn't know exactly how it was laid out. If it is really top heavy, then it's probably the best case scenario. Or it's kind of high risk, high reward, kind of more mid risk. Patriots, try him out this year. If he gets hurt again after this season, you cut him. It's just a little bit of money on the cap. If he does play well, you get him for pennies on the dollar the next 2 years. I mean, it's a good win-win for them. Still not sure how it's going to play out. I do like him as a player. I do, but he did suffer. I'm pretty sure it was an ACL tear, if I remember correctly. Those injuries, he's 31 now, I think, maybe 32 now. I'm not entirely sure, but he's up there in age, and an ACL tear at a receiver his age, when we know they start to dip around the ages of 30, 29, 30, 31. I'm a little nervous, but he is going to be the best receiver on this team if he does come back to health. It's high risk, high reward, mid risk. I guess I could say, but it's kind of weird to say on the tongue. But I like it. I just hope it pans out. Is my thing.
Your turn, Andy.
Yeah, he will in fact be 32 in November. But I remember when the idea first floated of the Patriots signing Stephon Diggs in the Patriots Global Chat, I was not necessarily down with it. I was like, okay, here's a guy on the wrong side of 30. He's coming off an injury, and I'm like, I know he's a big name, but at the same time, I figured, okay, we have these two young guys. We've got Boutte. Who knows what we're going to take in the draft? So I really wasn't high on Stephon Diggs. And then when I looked at these stats, I mean, it's 496 yards over 8 games. I mean, like we've already said, he was on track for a 5th straight 1,000-yard receiving season with CJ Stroud as his quarterback. And now he'll have Drake Mays as quarterback. He'll have Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator, and he'll have Mike Vrabel as his head coach. With the recent talk that will be more of a run-heavy offense, I wouldn't bet the farm on a 1,000-yard season, but sorry to rain on your parade, Austin. But we'll definitely we'll see how things play out in training camp. I'll definitely be watching Mr. Stephon Diggs in training camp, and I hope he does have a 1,000-yard season, because the Pats haven't had that since Edelman, who had 3 of them with us. I think the last one was in either 18 or 19, if my memory is serving me correctly. But yeah, now I'm super excited about Stephon Diggs, and he's a veteran presence for the young guys, which I'm not going to go into that yet, but he's a veteran presence for the young guys, and is an absolute lock to make the roster. So yeah, I'm psyched about this signing.
What I hope for Stephon Diggs is, obviously last season, I don't think that he was much of a diva compared to what he did in Minnesota and Buffalo. So initially when I heard that he signed with the Patriots, I was a little concerned, not because of how well he plays, but considering he is considered to be a diva, considering that he wanted out of Minnesota, which granted, then he wanted to be out of Buffalo after 2 to 3 seasons of Buffalo, so which granted as well. So we haven't seen much of that after his stint in Houston, but I'm just hoping and praying that he doesn't act like a diva like he did in Minnesota and Buffalo. So that's my only worry. But other than that, I agree that he's kind of he's in his 30s right now. He did come off of a major injury, so I'm hoping, praying that he does expect to play within the first week of the season. So yeah, I think Stephon Diggs could potentially make the 53-man roster, considering the contract that he had. But Let's now move on to the next wide receiver, who I think is going to be a bit of a question mark, considering that we did sign him to a 2-year, $4 million deal, and that is Mac Hollins. Starting off with you, Austin, what are your thoughts on Mac Hollins?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a physical receiver, it's definitely a plus. I think we're missing that. I mean, I'm not going to say he's like Mike Evans-esque, but he's kind of that build. I think he's, 6'4", over 200 pounds. He's that gritty, going to go out there and block for you on those rundowns. I think that can be very useful. But in terms of the passing game, I really can't see a spot for him beyond like red zone packages. I don't think he's going to be out there when, game's on the line. We need 4 wide. Like, I don't think he's going to be that guy. But Dow's right. It's very interesting because as much as I could see him being useful to the team in different facets like special teams or those run packages, I could very well also just see him cut because of the cheapness of the contract.
Thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, I basically agree with that. I didn't know that about his size. Actually, I'm just now kind of looking at it now. He is 6'4" at 221. So he is a pretty big guy. He's a pretty big guy at receiver. Could definitely be on one of those little game packages where, like you say, you need a first down, you're on a 3rd and 1, send your 2 tight ends out and send 2 receivers out. He could definitely be your big bodied receiver that can help get an extra block on a solid run game to get a first down. As far as receiving, he doesn't have a whole lot, at least not from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing most of his targets coming from Las Vegas in 2022, where he had 94 targets. And even then, he had 57 receptions. So he's definitely not – I don't want to say he's not consistent in the pass game, but I don't think that's going to be a strength. I don't think that's what he's going to be mainly utilized for. Now, coming to his contract, though, I think this is where it's going to kind of hurt him a little bit more. A 2-year, $4 million deal. That's easier to get out than a couple of our rookies. So, I mean, I'm not going to say he's a definite roster cut. I'm not going to say that. Especially, we could especially use a veteran presence. But if I'm looking at a receiver that's definitely got to fight his way in camp to earn a roster spot, it's definitely going to be Mac Hollins being one of them. But that's my 2 cents.
How about you, Andy?
Mac Hollins. Well, I was just looking into this. Apparently, he was mainly used as a blocking receiver, which, Austin, as you already said, would lead him to more, red zone packages. Drake May, here's 1st and goal from the 2 or whatever. We're going to force a pass to Mac Hollins. I think the Bills did that on a couple of plays last year, and it worked to perfection. He's a Josh McDaniels guy. I like bringing in another Josh McDaniels guy. But I mean, considering how crowded this wide receiver room is with Diggs and the guys we'll be talking about farther down the line, I agree that Hollins it hasn't been talked about that much, but he could arguably be the number 1. I don't want to say cut candidate, but he could easily be flipped to special teams. And we could, we're trying to get younger on special teams, and obviously Hollins is on the wrong side of 30, but I mean, he's a versatile player, so signing him to the 53-man roster I'm not going to say it should be a lock, but, I would like to see him on the 53-man as a versatile player, as that short down wideout in the red zone, and as potentially a special teamer.
I think Jonathan has a question like, did Josh McDaniels coach Mac Hollins in Las Vegas, or did he have a different guy? Yes, he did. Yes, Josh McDaniels did coach Mac Hollins during Mac Hollins' stint in Las Vegas. I think it was for like 1 season back in like 2022. But yeah, going back to all of your points, I could see Mac Hollins. He's a bit of a question mark considering that the next wide receiver we're going to talk about and him, I know that he did out of college coming out of the Tar Heels, but I think last season in Buffalo, where I know some of the Bills fans will know for a fact that when we signed him, they were really upset considering that Mac Hollins, he was at least reliable for Josh Allen in like certain packages on the offense. But when it comes to like special teams, I think that he could be used not as like a returner, but he could be used as a gunner. I think Jeremy Springer, I don't know how he's going to be like utilized in certain certain packages on special teams or the offense, but we could possibly see him in certain packages, but we'll have to find out in like mandatory minicamp and training camp and see if he's officially a lock. But let's move on to the next wide receiver, who is a bit of a wild card, considering that he was coming off of I wouldn't say like a terrible season, but considering that he did have a injury the season prior, I think there's going to be some question marks, and that is Kendrick Bourne. What are your thoughts on it, Austin?
Yeah, I think this is another one of the interesting ones we have for the team. I mean, you're looking at another veteran presence, which is why I make the argument, maybe Mac Hollins is expendable because, Kendrick Bourne's already been in this system. Like Mac Hollins, Kendrick Bourne's best career year came under Josh McDaniels, posting 70 targets, 55 receptions, and 800 yards for 5 touchdowns. Who's to say he can't do that again? Now, you're right in saying, he tore his ACL back in 23, and he was kind of a shell of himself since then. Granted, I don't think we really utilized him as best we could have, nor did we utilize, the rookies that we drafted too. The whole coaching staff was a shit show last year. So I don't really want to fault him at that. I think he has a really solid chance of making this roster just because he's been here, and he's a huge culture guy. You can just tell when he's in the locker room, even when he does his cringy TikTok lives that I see every time I open the app. He's just a Foxborough guy. So I think he makes it.
What are your thoughts, Dustin?
I think this is where I could see like one of the camp battles being between Mac Hollins and Kendrick Bourne. They both got the ties to Josh McDaniels. They're both veterans. Where I see Kendrick Bourne having the upside. He's been in New England. He's been in New England since 2021. He's been there for pretty much the entire downtime. I think 2021 was a year where they did make the wild card round and then got blown out. But other than that, he's kind of just been there pretty much in the mud with us. Like, essentially just he's struggled with us during these bad times, and he's come out and said, at least from what I've read and from what I've heard, he wants to stay here. He wants to play here. And considering how bad we've been, him saying that is definitely it makes me favor him more. What makes me go against him a little bit more is that ACL tear. Is the injury right? Is he going to come back from that injury? Is he going to be able to come back from that injury, be that kind of locker room guy that can show the young guys the ropes, that can help them explain what Josh McDaniels is trying to do in a set or in like a certain formation? But I don't want to. I can't say he's a confirmed roster lock. I really cannot say that for sure. I want to see how he does in camp. I want to hear how he does in camp. I want to see if the injury is going to slow him down, if it's going to limit him a little bit, or if he's going to go back to being his old self, or maybe he gets fuel from like my doubting talk, and he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to prove this guy wrong. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be one of the best receivers on his team. It could happen. It could happen, but I'm going to hold off for now.
How about you, Andy?
Yeah, KB. I mean, both of you guys have pretty much said it all. Okay, fun fact here on Kendrick Bourne. He is out of Eastern Washington, like Cooper Kupp and Efton Chisholm, who do not believe we'll be talking about this evening. But I do like that he had that career season under Josh McDaniels. He had Mac Jones as his quarterback. Obviously, Mac is well known as a pocket passer, and McDaniels knew what he was doing with him. He will be 30, I believe, in October, so a little younger than our previous two guys. A good veteran presence for the rookies. Again, there could be a training camp battle. Like you said, Moonshine, there could be a training camp battle between Hollins and Bourne. I think there could be a training camp battle. No, I don't want to say between Diggs and Bourne, because I think Diggs is more or less a lock. Bourne's been in the NFL since 2017. Started with the 49ers, obviously. But if you look at this, 800 yards, he played all 17 games. And the coaching staff really hamstrung him last year. I think they were talking about I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were talking about a specific play. I think they were talking. No, maybe I'm thinking of something else. But there were several instances in which I believe it was Kendrick Bourne who was open on the field for Drake May to make a nice downfield throw, and the coaching staff just didn't give him the time of day. Of course, as we know, we had, cementing the fact that, he's not an AVP guy. He is, once again, a McDaniels guy. But as for whether he makes the roster, I think if we carry six wide receivers, I truly do believe he makes it. If we carry six, if we only not a lot of teams carry five, but if we do carry six, yes, I think he is a Patriot in 2025.
Yeah, about KB, I know that I really like him because of his personality and his energy for the locker room. My only concern is he may have that one impressive season during his first season in New England. And obviously, I think he was like a wide receiver 3 or 2 behind Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. But ever since that, obviously under Matt Patricia, it was a complete disaster from top to bottom.
In fact, you're right. It wasn't Mayo. It was Patricia. It was when Patricia came in that's what they were talking about on this podcast. They noticed the drop off in KB's performances, and as you can see here, his yardage nearly halved from when he had McDaniels as his OC to when he had Patricia as his OC.
Yeah, I don't know what Patricia was doing. Probably that was just Bill Belichick being stubborn and not evaluating his staff, not evaluating his personnel, but that's all on Belichick. But even though he was supposed to have a better season with Bill O'Brien. Unfortunately, he did suffer that ACL against the Miami Dolphins at Miami. But yeah, considering that he was on the PUP list for a brief period of time last season, I just felt like last season I did not think that KB was like himself as he once did, as he was trying to, coming off the injury. He is an energetic guy. I just think that at some point you need to think, and considering that, is he going to be the same person that he did now that Josh McDaniels is your offensive coordinator for the Patriots? That is going to be the question heading into mandatory minicamp and training camp, because those are where the answers will be revealed, considering if KB could be at the level that he was in 2021. So that's going to be the big question. But now we head over to the 2023 wide receivers that we drafted during Belichick's final season, and let's start with Kayshon Boutte, and then we're going to get to Demario Douglas. Let's start with Kayshon Boutte. What are your thoughts on Kayshon Boutte, Austin?
Yeah, so Kayshon Boutte is somebody that I followed even in college. I mean, he's just one of my favorite players, and the fact that we drafted him was just amazing. Now, I know he gets a lot of flack, but I just want to point out the improvement, because if you look at the 23 season, we draft him in I think the 6th round, so you're not even thinking much of him. He's just a late pick. He only gets what is that? Let's see. 5. Yeah, he has 5 games played, only targeted 7 times, 19 yards, basically does nothing, and then bounces back with a near 600-yard campaign, almost 70 targets, 43 receptions. The improvement is night and day. So that right there just shows that he's willing to put in the work. And I've even preached, and it's even been shown, back when he was at LSU, he was projected to be a first in the year that he was drafted. What's up, Andy?
No, I was just saying yes. I heard time and again in 23. I heard time and again that this Kayshon Boutte out of LSU was repeatedly billed as a first round pick.
Exactly, and I think if not for basically it's an unfortunate scenario, but it was on a sideline catch in one of the games. He broke his ankle, and that tanked his draft stock because he wasn't able to finish the rest of the season. So people pretty much had to draft him based off of the previous year plus the I think 6 games he played in that year, which I don't know. I think we got a steal, and I think some of the people that are saying, "Oh, we should get rid of Butte," don't realize kind of what they have, and that like he's just getting right back up to speed.
Interesting. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he said. The difference in the year to year from his rookie to his second year is completely night and day. Just I remember watching some of the games. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch a lot of them because of just how the season was going. But watching at least watching some of the highlights and stuff, some of the plays that Kayshon Boutte were making were looking like his days in LSU. He was looking like that. He was looking like that kind of guy. He was looking like that receiver. He's looking like that playmaker. They're giving him a chance. They're actually giving him a chance. And I think if he can continue to perform, like take all that from last year and make some more improvements on the training camp side and even in preseason, I could see this guy being a roster lock. I really could. I don't really know what I could see why he's out there for possible trade talks because he was our best receiver last year. Maybe somebody who's desperate enough for a receiver will give us some kind of capital, or I doubt a player swap, but maybe something. I just wouldn't want to see it. I think this is one of the few receivers. I do actually want to comment on this really quick. This comment from Thomas Noble, if you could get that up, DT. Is this a better wide receiver room that we've had since without Tom Brady? I would argue yes. I would honestly argue yes. Yes, we have a lot of bodies, but there's also some talent there. There is potential there. There is competition there. There is veterancy there. There is playmaking there. There is a lot of potential in this room. It's just a matter of can these guys unlock it, and that's where this camp is. This is why this camp is so interesting for these receivers. They all have potential. Who's going to show out? Who is going to show out? It's. I get excited talking about it. I'm sorry, but.
No worries. We all do.
I do believe Kayshon Boutte does stand a chance at a roster lock. I do believe he could, especially him kind of mirroring what Stephon Diggs used to be. In some ways, I do see flashes of Stephon Diggs. If Stephon Diggs can be willing to take him under his ropes and actually show him a thing or two and continue to not be a diva, I'm just saying he could be a potential. I'm not. Do not quote me on this and saying that this is what's going to happen because I'm not. Potential nurse Stephon Diggs? Possibly, maybe. Only time will tell. That's it for me.
How about you, Andy?
Fingers crossed, Moonshine, this kid does make the roster. It makes me so angry when, to hear this talk, Boutte's on the bubble. I actually have a coworker who read an article a couple of weeks ago that said Boutte is not on the bubble, that he's actually safe. I hope that from the Boston Globe, I hope that article is right, because he was only on the up, last season under Alex Van Pelt. Let me look at these stats here. Almost 600 yards, 15 games played. He's got Drake Mace's quarterback. I think it was against the Bills in Buffalo. He had that magnificent touchdown catch from a little ways out, too. I think it might have been 10 or 12 yards. This kid is 100% a keeper. I read about him being a first round pick. And I thought when we drafted him, honestly, I was surprised when Belichick took him. I'm like, we got a steal and a half in the 6th round. I mean, even after that injury, I think, he should have been a, 4th or 5th round pick looking at his college stats. But, and I think that talk is actually waning a little bit of him being a potential roster cut. So yes, Kayshon Boutte, when all is said and done, will make the roster.
Yeah, initially after his first season, obviously he did get doghoused by Belichick because after that one miserable play against the Eagles, he didn't like get his chance because of Belichick being Belichick. And obviously after that season, there was some legal issues, not just like with the injury that he had at LSU, but also some of the gambling issues. And those are not going to be tolerated because obviously gambling issues are a huge issue. Yeah, I think he had like a gambling on like college games from Kayshon Boutte, and that was like where the concern came from with Kayshon Boutte. And heading into the 2024 season, the problem with Kayshon Boutte is how inconsistent he can be. Sometimes he can be hot, and sometimes he can be cold. The question is if he can. Wait, go ahead.
January the 25th, 2024, Boutte was issued a warrant of arrest in connection to an online gambling investigation, alleged to have placed 8,900 wagers while underage, including 6 on LSU football games. On July 16th, all charges were dropped. There you go.
Huh. I don't know how it... I might have heard it and just forgot about it, but I thought I would remember something like that. Dang.
Yeah, but it sucks. But even though the charges were dropped, then again, Kayshon Boutte is a question mark considering if he can remain consistent, because I know he was like at some point a wide receiver 1 for the team, but that was just because our wide receiver room last season, it was like one of the worst wide receiver cores we've ever had. So we had no other choice. But he was potential, as you pointed out, either Austin or Moonshine, that he was potentially going to be the best wide receiver coming out of college. But unfortunately, yeah, his draft stock did tank because of how bad his combine looked, and obviously the issues and the injuries. So that's where the question mark is. I could see him making it to the roster, but that it will all depend on how well he performs in mini camp and training camp. So this is going to be a question mark. But let's head over to our man Pop Douglas. Starting off with you, Austin. What are your thoughts on Pop?
Yeah, I mean, if you look solely off the stats, he pretty much had the same type of year. He started he started the same amount of games, but he actually played in 3 more games. But the 3 extra games don't really reflect that much improvement on the yards. Definitely has more receptions, but like it just seems middling. You know what I mean? Like with Kayshon Boutte, you can at least see he didn't do shit, and then he exploded onto the scene. With DeMario, it's consistency, I guess. So it's like you like to see, he has 561, he has 621. He's kind of middling of the pack receiver. But I do think he adds a lot of not explosiveness, but just gadget play where you can just kind of line them up in various different packages and have them, run a reverse, run a screen. Just he's a player that shakes up what the defense sees and has to try and contain. It'll be interesting to see how minicamp goes, because I don't believe it to be so, but there are a lot of reports saying, Demario Douglas's job could be in jeopardy because of Efton Chisholm. So I'm not really believing.
Where are you seeing that, Austin? Where are you seeing that? Efton Chisholm? That must be on Twitter.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
same
hide nor hair of
stuff
it.
where it's like Twitter, where it's like it could be Taylor Kyles or it could be Andrew Callahan or some of these other people. Like I've just seen some reports, or even
Callahan,
just people like us.
Callahan likes to throw spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks so often.
Yeah. I'm not saying I believe those reports, but I definitely could see a scenario where maybe Douglas does get pushed out, but
I don't think it's going to be by Chisholm. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a Chisholm guy, so here we are.
I know, but at the end of the day, you have to look at like who can play what. You know what I mean? Like what receiver is best in what role. And it's like Chisholm's the slot guy. So if you're going to say Demario Douglas is the slot guy as well, then it's one of those things like you really need 2 people playing the slot when like KB could play the slot or Jalen Poe could play the slot. Like you just start racking up too many receivers that all play just one position. That's where I'm kind of getting at.
Well, God willing, we get rid of Jalen Polk. Well, that's a a topic for an entirely different podcast. I'll drop it right now.
I guess I just want to see improvement out of Douglas. He's shown that he can reach the same place he was the year prior, but I need him to take that next step, and I think it's possible. So
it's very fair, and now he has McDaniels as his offensive coordinator, and he's got Vrabel as his head coach, and who's our wide receivers coach again? I'm blanking.
Todd Downing.
Todd Downing, yeah, right. I mean, again, not the best coaching signing, but I mean, we'll see what he does. I mean, but Polk, Douglas, he was doghoused by Belichick. It's one of those cases in which you could say you hope the kid makes it, but carrying 7. I'm not going to go down that rat hole, but
how about you? Go ahead.
It will be very interesting. It's wide receiver, like you said at the top of the cast. It's going to be considerably the most interesting position to watch this offseason.
How about you, Moonshine? What are your thoughts on Douglas?
I'm just going to start off by stating that Pop Douglas, prior to this receiver room, has been one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite receiver on this team. Especially with some of the plays he made his first season, getting a lot of plays made in the inside, playing in the slot, getting those nitty-gritty catches. But he does have some injuries that he suffered throughout his time in the NFL. 2 injuries, one being in his head injury. It was against the Giants last year. I forget which game that was, but it was a head injury on the fourth quarter during a punt return. And he suffered a hand injury, I think, coming into 2024 training camp, I believe it was. And he's also had he's had several illnesses as well, so he also has a history of being sick. I think with Pop Douglas, it's really going to come down to his reliability. I mean, I think he could make the roster. I do think he could. I really do. But could I see him staying on the team is going to be my thing. I think there could be a world, this is just my 2 cents. I think there's a world we have a receiver on the practice squad. Pop Douglas goes down. Practice squad guy gets elevated and performs in Pop Douglas's role, plays injury-free and everything. And I think it could be, I don't know, maybe he could be traded. Maybe he could be cut next year. If he cannot show some durability, or if he cannot improve his durability this season, I do believe he also suffered a couple of fumbles as well, or knockouts. He's a good player. I do like him. I really do. I've loved him since coming out of college. I've loved him in the NFL so far. I like his nitty-gritty play style. I just don't think he's built for it. Maybe he develops another playing style. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know about him. I'd like to see. I will say this. I would like to see him on the 53-man roster. I really would. It just depends, like, if he comes to training camp with an injury or if he gets sick again. Maybe he just becomes too unreliable. I hope he makes it. I'll say he'll make it. I just don't know if he'll stay on the team. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I got your points. Like, I know that Pop Douglas, he is like, I don't know if he was like misused like under Bill Belichick or no Bill O'Brien, excuse me, or AVP, but that's just based off of like his durability or whatever what he did like during OTAs. I don't know if he was like sick or not, but yeah, these injuries are definitely a concern, especially that he did, as you alluded to, Moonshine, about the head injury. These are kind of injuries that you have to keep an eye on, and considering that he did lose 3 fumbles during his first season and then only lost 1 fumble, I just think that once again this is another wide receiver that got doghoused by Belichick or has been misused wisely. But I hope he stays healthy throughout the whole entire season, and hopefully he can, as Jonathan alluded to, I hope Pop Douglas gets more TDs. He has 3 TDs in his 2 years. I hope maybe Pop can have like a 800, 900 season under McDaniels because he had BOB and AVP as his OC. So I'm just hoping and praying that he at least has a good season. But if he doesn't, if he underperforms like during training camp and mini camp, he could be possibility as a candidate to be cut or possibly be on the practice squad. But all will depend like throughout the offseason. But let's now head over to the second year wide receivers. And I'm gonna start with you, Andy. I know you dislike him.
Dow, I can't hear you.
What? You can't hear me?
I can.
I can.
I can hear him fine.
Moonshine, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Try talking again, TT. See if he can hear you.
Hello, Andy.
I don't.
I'll just kick it. I'll just briefly remove you, and then we'll just quickly discuss on Jalen.
stop, Dow. Just stop, please.
What?
You good?
You good? Wait, what's going on? Let's just quickly move on to quickly move on to Jalen Polk. I'll start with you, Austin, because I think that I have no idea what's going on with Andy's issues, but let's just start with you, Austin. Quickly on Jalen Polk. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think Jalen Polk, another solid receiver coming out of college. I think he immediately gets looked down upon because of how we acquired him. If you look back at the 23 draft or 24 draft, sorry, we had a shot at Lad McConkey. Like, he's like sitting there staring us in the face, and we decided to trade back. And it's just one of those things now where it's like we have a bad taste in our mouth, where we're looking at the Chargers with Lad McConkey, and we're like, man, 1,000-yard receiver. Him and Justin Herbert are electric. And we're just looking at Jalen Polk, and I like to think of that meme where it's the stick figure with the stick poking, and it's Jalen Polk, and it's like, come on, do something. I will say definitely did not help him this year. But I do think there were a lot higher hopes of him. I mean, if you look at his 23 campaign at Washington, him and Michael Penix were just electric. And I mean, what is that? 69 receptions, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, almost 17 yards a reception. Like, he's very, like, you see that and you're like, okay, that's going to be a solid, like, I almost compare Polk to KB. So it's almost like another type of slot or a type of, I don't know, just a physical type of receiver. And yeah, he just very underwhelming. Him and Baker are both going to be very, very hard to make this roster. Also, because I think it's just a pass regime pick. So I don't think Vrabel has any quote unquote loyalty towards these players. So they definitely have to duke it out in training camp and mini camp to even crack the roster. I'm not even thinking of these guys having the chance to start for us. So
can I just give my 2 cents on this, Austin? Because I completely agree with you, and I believe that everybody on the radio who is saying that the 2 sophomore wide receivers are locks to make the roster, they have no loyalty to anybody on this coaching staff. McDaniels doesn't know them. Vrabel doesn't know them. Downing doesn't know them. It's just they deserve, Mike Cadlick earlier started going off on, oh yeah, Jalen Polk deserves a second chance. I really liked him coming out of college. If it's training camp and they feel the need to cut one of these guys because, Boutte or Pop or, maybe even Mac Hollins is balling, trim some of the fat off and get rid of. I mean, I was a Baker guy coming into last year, so get rid of Jalen Polk.
How about you, Moonshine?
I don't think he had much chances to shine for sure coming into the draft or coming into the 2024 season. He had some potentials of making some plays. He had some bad calls go his way, but I do also agree with both y'all, or I agree with Andy at least as far as the whole this regime has no loyalty to either of the rookies that we drafted last year. Don't really have a lot of loyalties to too many of the guys. Or it might actually just be Baker and Polk now that I think about it. But I could see a world that he could make it, but he's definitely gonna have to perform. He's definitely gonna have to show that he deserves a spot on this roster. I think he got too much in his head with some of the plays that he tried to make didn't go his way. And I don't think he was getting the encouragement. I don't think he was getting the you can do this, brush it off. I don't think he was getting that leadership with Bourne being out. I don't think he was getting coached very well. I don't think he was getting any sort of development at all. And he
go.
Yeah, he did play in 15 games, but coming in as a rookie, having so much put on your shoulders and not being able to learn anything from anybody, not having really the best competent staff. I'm not saying that Vrabel and them are going to look at that and say like, "No, you deserve a shot." He's definitely going to have to earn it. But I'm not ready to write him off.
He can't go out there and say he's got the best hands in the league and shit the bed. I mean, if he does that again,
we're talking about Polk, right? Or are we talking about Baker?
That was Polk.
That was Baker.
No, that was Polk.
Oh no, Baker was the one saying he would make the people in wheelchairs stand up. That's right.
Yeah.
I had him flip flop. My bad.
I know. I don't blame you, man. But you don't. I mean, yeah, you don't say that and then go out there and shit the bed in training camp. And if he, I mean, like you, Moonshine, I don't think. But back to my flipping computer glitch. Back to Pop Douglas. What were you guys' decisions on him? Make the roster or no?
Me, it's a question mark. I would say he makes the roster, but it will all depend on like how well he performs in training camp.
Austin?
Yeah, I think I kind of have him up in the air as well. I do also wonder with Pop Douglas if people are just so in love with him because he's kind of all we've had. And I don't mean that like with disrespect, but when he's
been our wide receiver. No, he's been our wide receiver core. That one guy.
Yeah. So when like that one guy is making these like flashy jukes and shit, it's easy to be like,
flashy
that
what?
guy's awesome on our team. But now that we have all these
flashy what?
Just flashy moves and jukes, like some of the spin moves he does, like leaves people like out of their cleats. Like that
dancing on the field, yeah, practically. But yeah, I mean, I think that is some of it. Is Pop Douglas, he's rah, he's DeMario,
But I mean, we have Butte coming into his own. We got Diggs being our number one, Kyle Williams to spread the field. I mean, you're looking at this going like, I don't know how anybody else is going to have time or how Pop is going to prove that he deserves time over those three, in my opinion. Those guys are just going to be
certainly don't see him being a starter. I'll say that now. I don't see him being a starter if he does make the team.
Interesting. But anyway, back to Jalen Polk. I'm with you guys. I don't think I'm not betting the farm that Vrabel says, although Vrabel's known as a player guy, he may say these guys got the short end of the stick in 24. We're going to give him a second chance. But I would.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry to cut you off, but these guys are capable of being signed to the practice squad, right?
Oh yeah, you can have 16 players on a practice squad.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. Vrabel, you did just say it yourself. He is a player guy. Not saying he'll do it, but if he has the slots, maybe. I don't know. Even that he might have to earn.
I said practice year one off, Austin. They're actually 17, but yeah, close enough.
But yeah, about Jalen Polk, I could see him making the PS. I know he had that the impressive, like, what you would call it. He had the impressive showing in training camp. It's just that when he tried to translate it into the NFL, I did give him a hard time just because of the thing of how he like didn't perform well. But I could see him that he was misused incorrectly, considering that we had like a wide receiver coach who was a quality coach out of Washington, and I don't think he was like used correctly. But then again, I hate the fact him and then the next wide receiver we're going to be talking about. The problem with them nowadays is a new generation of players have been going on to social media, like going out saying that he has the best hands. No, you don't have the best hands. This is what I don't like about the new generation of players, thinking that they're like these top-notch players and that they can go on to social media saying that, oh, they're this and that. You got to prove it on the field. And I know Vrabel will not tolerate that because obviously Vrabel, he's not that. I know he's not going to be tolerating all of that baloney. He did say that he's going to remove entitlement. And hold on, I'm just going to move forward with this. But you keep going on with this conversation.
Real quick, I do want to say with what Jonathan Watson put this last comment. Yeah, but they have to clear waivers, I think, first, don't they, to get to the practice squad? I do believe so, but I mean, I'm going to say this: if he does make the practice squad, or if he does get signed, I mean, is it really any? Is it any water on our back or off our back or anything? Like I just.
Yeah, that's where some of this stuff is tough, because if what the hell? Andy was calling me in Discord. That's where some of this is. Oh, jeez. That's where some of this is tough because.
Oh, good, I'm back in.
Because of the rookies having to go through the waiver process, I believe it's anybody who's played less than 4 years in the NFL has to go through the waivers. So it could be one of those things where, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker are close to making the roster. But if you don't want to risk losing like Efton Chisholm to waivers, then you drop somebody like Polk.
So what's your point again?
Like Baker. I was just saying, because of the waiver process with like rookies, or it's basically you have to be more than a 4-year vet in the NFL to not have to go through waivers. So I was just saying it could be a chance where Efton Chisholm and Polk and Baker all have equal chance of kind of making the team after training camp said and done. But if they feel they're going to lose Efton if they cut him and he goes through waivers before he can get to the practice squad versus the other two, they may
Can you still hear me?
Chisholm.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I do believe if it comes between those three, it'll definitely probably be Chisholm that's gonna have the best chances, and then Polk and Baker are probably gonna end up being on the practice squad. Just because Chisholm's a new fresh face, he's out of Eastern Washington. He seems like a reliable player. I do feel like he could have the better chance, but that's just what I see off of stats and highlights. There's no way of knowing until training camp comes. But my hypothetical outcome, Chisholm probably makes it. Those two go to the practice squad. If they get claimed off waivers before they can go, no water off our back. If they don't get signed and they stay on the practice squad, cool beans, cool deal.
I don't know what's going on with Andy's phone, but for some reason throughout like the later half of the stream, I just don't get like what his technology with is. But there's just one comment that I think that connects to Polk and Baker, considering I don't want to get into Baker because we already know what happened to him. But this is a comment from Jonathan. I don't know if you can correlate with this. One thing I have noticed is that Vrabel said we are going to remove entitlement, and I have not seen Polk or Baker posting anything on social media this off season. Is there a correlation? What are your thoughts, guys?
I do believe that actually could be a thing. I do believe that maybe from the Vrabel seeing what they did this past season, especially coming in as rookies, he probably did come into that receiver room, maybe even got all the receivers together, just kind of like put his foot down, like. This is a loaded group, but it's loaded in bodies. We still got to find the talent. And if you're going to be a distraction, I don't care how talented you are, you're gone. I see that being some conversation along those lines. Now, could he have put them to the side and had a one-on-one with them specifically? Possibly. Yeah, I do believe he'd be the kind of guy to do that. But I would say he definitely is, but I don't know if they've done anything on social media or not. As far as this, I personally haven't seen anything, but I'm not following them on any social media. I don't know, somebody else might have, but if they do stay off of social media, if they stop talking all this big talk and show it on the field, then I mean, maybe Vrabel's like, okay, these guys are listening to me. Maybe I'll try and rein them in somehow, some way if they're proving themselves. That is.
So something I did get a chuckle out of regarding social media is
Hold on.
Wait, now we can hear you. What's
So I'm sorry, my technology has been glitzy or fritzy. And it's 17 players to the practice squad, FYI.
Oh,
okay.
Andy, as we were discussing, you want to read a comment from Jonathan. I don't know if you can relate to all of this.
Removing entitlement? Yes, I completely. One thing I've noticed is Vrabel said we're going to remove entitlement, and I have seen neither Bolton nor Baker post anything on that is definitely an interesting tidbit. I had not seen that before.
The way I kind of worded it is like, I do believe the way it's worded, the way I took it is like them like being on social media. Maybe he got all the receivers together to have that kind of talk, or like, you can be talented all you want, but if you're going to be a distraction, you're off this team. I do believe he did that for all the receivers, and I do believe he even emphasized it on Polk and Baker in a one-on-one. That's what I think. And maybe that kind of cooled them down on doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, something I wanted to point out regarding the social media that I got a chuckle out of was it was kind of radio silence after Gerard Mayo got fired, and they're going through the process of
exactly. It went like dead silent. Yeah, I noticed that too.
In the process of like hiring Mike Vrabel, still really nothing. So then you're kind of sitting here going, dude, are Polk and Baker like trying to gear up for the season? Or are they trying to, not stir up any more shit than they already have? And then all it took was Stefon Diggs getting signed to the team. And I kid you not, Stefon Diggs posted like footage of him, coming off the ACL, but you're watching it going, holy shit, this guy looks so explosive running on, an injured leg. And I kid you not, 30 minutes later, Polk, Baker, Kendrick Bourne, and I think Pop Douglas all had videos on Instagram posted of them working out. So I definitely think at the very least, it was like
that's
a
the kind of
call.
stuff I want to see on social media, not them barking all this talk. I want to see them. I want to see them doing the walk. I want to see them doing this.
Yeah, Stefon Diggs definitely he woke them up to be like, oh shit, I'm not gonna make this team now. Like I got to get out there and put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that at this generation nowadays, it seems like no matter what we try to do, I believe this last regime did not take any control on these young players. Not just the wide receivers. I'm talking like all the players, like in general, considering like these second years and the first years. They would go on to social media. They would go into these press conferences saying, oh, this and that, thinking that they're entitled to all this. And that is completely unacceptable. And I think that all lays on Gerard Mayo's fault. It's not just the players' fault, but that's also Gerard Mayo's fault for not like managing all these players. And that's why Vrabel did allude to that he is removing entitlement. And I think that's going to be a huge improvement moving on to the next and moving into this upcoming season. So let's cut to the chase because I think we're kind of way behind on schedule. So let's quickly move on to the rookies. Let's start off with Kyle Williams, and Austin, you go first.
No, I'm sorry. Can I get my 2 cents in?
Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
But did you get my comments yet?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Okay. So you want to talk about the rookies?
We're about to talk about Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams. Okay.
You want to go first, Andy, and then you go let Austin go?
Please and thank you.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
So obviously, being a 2025 draft pick, this guy is a lock to make the roster out of oh gosh, I'm blanking on where he was drafted out of. He wasn't Ohio State. That was
Washington State.
Washington. I thought it was Washington State. All right, thanks, man. Yeah, Washington State. You've got it up right here. 1,198 yards, 17.1 yards per game. You know, there was a reason he was the 68th or 69th overall pick. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, but his NFL comp is Steve Smith Jr., who played with the Carolina Panthers back when they had that Super Bowl run back in 03, 04. I don't know if I go that far, but like Jonathan just said here, I do think, you know, that speed and agility, you know, it is going to be key for, you know, is not something we've had in a while. Dare I say, since Randy Moss. So yes, I agree with Jonathan's comment there that we're to be very excited about Kyle Williams.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to be excited about. I mean, we're going from a bunch of receivers that run like their feet are in molasses versus the greatest pure separator in this year's draft. So I'm expecting a lot of great things, a lot of scheme plays out of McDaniels. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you have something where Douglas is in the slot on one side, you got Kyle Williams on the other, and you're just kind of like, the defense is like, shit, I don't know if they're going to do a screen to him or a screen to the other guy. Like, I think there's going to be so many packages and plays that they can set up now that we have somebody like this. And the difference between somebody like this and say like a Tyquan Thornton, where you're just like, oh, Tyquan Thornton's so fast, and then he throws on the pads and you're sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, this guy, I don't know what's going on, man.
He looks like a stick. Exactly.
Yeah.
He looked like a stick. I mean, did you? I saw him at practice in training camp that year. I'm like, I know this guy ran like a beast of a, you know, like a sub 4.40, but like, who cares if it's like, if he doesn't even look like he belongs on an NFL field. It looks like it's snap in half in a millisecond.
But the fact, like, Kyle Williams has the route tree to go with it, the separation with the pads on, like, he's just proven that time and time again. And just the increase every year, it's just, I mean, he goes, you know, 6 touchdowns to then the next year having 14, almost 1,200 yards, 70 receptions. Like, I don't know. I think we got a stud in the 3rd round. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, that's a steal of the draft, because I definitely think that could be Braden Swinson for us. But again, we're Patriots fans, so we think everybody's the steal of the draft for us. So,
oh my God, I really want. Go ahead.
Rivian Henderson's a steal.
Right.
But as I was saying, actually, let's let you go, Moonshine. What are your thoughts on Kyle Williams?
I mean, I don't have too much more to add, honestly. This dude's, he's the best separator. He's gonna be one of the more talented receivers that we, not so much on the team, but one of the better receivers that we've drafted. Key word there, drafted. When was the last time y'all can name a receiver that we've drafted, especially with this regime, or even the closest receiver in this regime from 2019, 2020 to now? Who do you think would come close to him as far as hype and play style and just overall being a stud? I mean, I can't.
We haven't.
I've watched his highlights, dude. He looks so fun. He can make the big plays. He can break tackles. He can juke people out. He looks so fun to watch. He is so fun to watch. I cannot wait to see what he does in training camp. He's could possibly be a starter. I do believe he has the best chance as far as like being a rookie or added rookie, 2nd year, 3rd year, however you want to list them. But he's definitely one of the better receivers that we've ever gotten in the draft. At least coming into this like new-ish regime. I know I'm saying new regime, even though we've had like 3 of them already in 5 years or 4 years. But I'm excited for it. He's not D still. I'd say he's number 2. I'd say he's a number 2 still.
Jonathan makes one interesting point, but I'm not gonna even want to bother thinking about it as Pats fans. But maybe there's no correlation. It's just my PTSD. But I also like that Kyle Williams is not a 2nd round pick. Give me a break.
Fair.
considering that we had Tyquan Thorne, we had Jalen Polk, fearing that we would draft somebody in the second round. Thank God that was not the case. But going back to Kyle Williams, seeing his rookie minicamp, I thought he looks impressive with like the twitches, the separation, and the speed, and his attitude during these press conferences. It's a lot better than what Polk and Baker showcase during social media, on the field, off the field, and in press conference. I thought it was a lot more impressive than what the two that we had last year. So I thought it was really impressive, and I think he could be like your wide receiver too. He's definitely going to be a lock on the roster. I hope that he replicates the same success that he had upcoming training camp and potentially this upcoming season. So we're on to our final player, Efton Chisholm. And Andy, you want to start off with your Efton Chisholm thoughts?
Efton Chisholm. When I first saw that we signed this kid out of Eastern Washington, I was super psyched. I looked at him and I'd seen mocks saying, oh, he'll be, he could be a 4th round pick, a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, mid to late round draft pick. And then especially after reading last week, 2 things. One, that, he was going to be a 5th round or a 6th round pick by either the Steelers or the Rams. I'm like, the Rams have got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They don't need Efton Chisholm. I mean, they might want him, but they don't need him. And then this thing with the Broncos, you guys might have even seen it. They seriously courted him. They were, to the point where Sean Payton even said, you can stay close to your family in Washington, come to Denver. He picked New England. And the reason was this. The Patriots did not host Efton Chisholm on a 30 visit. Let me repeat that. We did not host Efton Chisholm on a 30 visit. The Broncos did. Per Efton Chisholm, what meant the world to him was a personal call from Mike Vrabel. So again, here I am sounding like a broken record. Vrabel is a player's guy. He knows how to talk to, people who've been in the NFL for 20 years. He knows how to talk to kids fresh out of college. That personal phone call with Mike Vrabel sold him on the Patriots. And I depending on what we talked about earlier, with potentially both the 2 second-year guys being on the bubble, I think Chisholm is a roster lock for me.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see how things play out, but it's definitely leaning that way for me as well, that he'll make the roster. This dude just shattered like Cooper Kupp's records at Eastern Washington. Like, he's just been a super solid receiver for him. I think I watched an interview, and it was the coach of Eastern Washington, and he was just he had nothing but good things to say about Efton Chisholm, and he seemed pretty psyched that out of anywhere he could end up, he ended up with the Patriots. So
I heard about that interview, and it was like he had like something like either 43 consecutive games with a reception or something wild. It was, I know.
53
or 50. Actually, no, I think you're right. It was 53. It was nutso cuckoo.
Yeah, he had 53 consecutive games with a catch, and then he had 120 catches in a season, breaking Kupp's record. So
it's a stud.
Super promising. And I just think that, like, out of all the wide receivers that went like undrafted for us that are kind of in here, even we can include like Polk and Baker. Like, I assume Kyle Williams is making this roster, but out of the bunch of receivers that we all have uncertainty of, I think Efton Chisholm is at the top of that list with the greatest chance of actually making the roster.
How about you, Dustin?
They kind of took my talking points. Kind of, because for those of you that don't know, I was planning on starting a channel myself, but things have kind of happened IRL, and it's not going to be happening anytime soon, unfortunately. But I was going to make a video about these UDFAs, and I have some information on Chisholm right here, and was going to share it, but I kind of got beat to the punch there. I will. I mean, all these records. Cooper Kupp's records. Cooper Kupp's records. Granted, it's in college, but still, we know the name. A triple crown receiver back in, what was it, 2020? If I remember
2021.
correctly. 2021. I'm not saying he's going to be like Cooper Kupp. I'm just saying the potential's there. I do believe that when I think of dark horse in this receiver room, I think Ethan Chisholm. I really do. When I think dark horse, Ethan Chisholm's the first guy on my head. I mean, the dude has promise, and if he shows that he deserves a spot on this roster, it better be on this roster, because I just feel like if he goes to the practice squad, somebody's picking him up. Somebody is picking him up. Please, 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 if he shows it, get this man get this man a spot. Get this man a spot, please. That's my 2 cents.
My thoughts before we move into the next segment of like which of the wide receivers could potentially make the roster, even though we have our thoughts on it. But with Ethan Chisholm, my thought process was like, who needs Cooper Kupp when we already have a Cooper Kupp, considering that he did shatter Cooper Kupp's wide receiver records. That's a completely impressive, considering that he went to the same school that KB went to years ago. But the thing with Chisholm is that, considering the school that he went to, going up against some not top tier competition, or maybe not going up against some like big colleges, it doesn't matter what big colleges, as long as he has like the technique, as long as he has like the separation, the playmaking abilities of being a great wide receiver out of his school, that's actually impressive. And the fact that, Andy, that you alluded to, that he got a 30-day pro day visit in Denver, I was shocked that week on. I like, who is this guy? But then when I saw his records and his PFF grade, I was like, holy cow! And my thought process was like, can he like do well and replicate that same success that he had in Eastern Washington to training camp? And that's gonna be like what I expect.
If my memory serves me correct, I might have even taken Chisholm late in a mock draft. I've said this in the Patriots chat. It shocks me he wasn't drafted, number one. And then number two, that, you see, this is that's the quickness of Mike Vrabel. We get into UDFA and boom, Chisholm is a Patriot. I think he might have, Vrabel might have had some intel. It's like, okay, the Broncos are about to sign this guy. We don't want him going there. In comes Mike Vrabel. Boom.
Exactly. So now that concludes break into all the wide receivers based off of like history, talent, and strengths and cons. Well, let's just collectively focus on like, which of the wide receivers starting from 1, 2, 3 could be in your starting lineup? You start off, Andy. Which of the 9 wide receivers could be in your starting lineup? 1, 2, 3.
In 1, 2, 3, I would start off with Stephon Diggs. And then I go Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams, Kayshon Boutte for me.
How about you, Austin?
Same exact one.
Moonshine?
It's going to be the same, but I'll kind of call it out as far as like where they are in the field. I'm seeing, obviously, Stephon Diggs, so long as he comes back healthy, he's going to be the X receiver. He's going to be the playmaker. Now, in the Y, when I talk about the wide receiver, I talk about the second guy. I'm talking about the guy that you like your security blanket if your X isn't open. Kayshon Boutte, if he makes the roster. I do definitely think he has a strong case for it. And for slot would definitely be Kyle Williams. Him being able to get out of those tackles, him being able to juke guys out, being able to lose them and fucking just move. That's how I see it. That's how I see it.
I'm on the same boat with you guys. Hopefully all of our predictions make the cut, as we might potentially see this combination as the first team Well, I just hope and pray that's the case. Drake May is going to have a field day, and especially that we will discuss the offensive line at some point. But considering that we do have a better offensive line, I hopefully these wide receivers are completely open and then that they get the production that they need. But that's going to be it for the discussion. We'll now get into questions, comments, and you can call it into the chat with the link in the description at the top. But if you want me to put the link in the chat, I'll gladly do so. Make sure that give us a respectable amount of time for like your questions and comments about like what we discussed, particularly on the wide receivers that we had. So yeah, and just make sure that make it entertaining. Talk Patriots. But Jonathan comes in with another good point, like about Chisholm saying, I hope Chisholm makes it just because I love a good underdog story, where a guy makes it just because of hard work and determination. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
That's definitely it right there. That's where a lot of the hype is definitely going to come in for Chisholm, especially for people who actually look into him, like we have. I mean, the work that he's put in college, the records he's broken of the player I've already named 100 times. He would be an amazing underdog story. Now, let's not get hooked on that. Let's not get a high off an underdog story. Let's not say, oh, because this will make a good story, he needs to be out there. He needs to be on the field. Let's see if he backs it up in training camp. He backs it up in training camp. He shows he deserves a spot here. I'm all for it. I would be 100% all for it, and I hope it happens. I really do. But this is a loaded receiver room with some pretty talented guys and some experience in the league. It'll be tough, but it would be so nice to see. It would be so nice to see. That's my take.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I still think I give Lan Larison that crown of the underdog coming in, and like him being my most wanted person to make the team.
True.
If we had to go off of, not a specialist, so to say, because obviously it's easy to sit here and be like, oh, that skill player is my favorite.
If we're definitely talking UDF, like all UDFAs, it's definitely Lan Larison. The only reason I kept with Chisholm as far as just for receiver room, but yes, Lan Larison is. If y'all haven't looked into this man, please look into him. Please, you'll be treating yourself.
Yeah, that film of Lan Larison, if none of you guys has watched it, is, I mean, he can. Let me tell you, that kid can run. He can catch. He can run. He can pass, block. He can do. He's a jack of all trades. I mean, Lan Larison. And I mean, I looked at the name in UDFA, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then I watched his film. I was like, and then there was a couple of guys in the chat saying, "Oh yeah, I really like Lan Larison. I hope he makes the roster." And so I have to look into this guy. And his film is amazing. Yeah, but Chisholm, I do agree with Jonathan here on the underdog story. We're not going to rehash Tom Brady. We know he was a 6th round pick, but this is a receiver room full essentially of veterans and kids. You really don't have anybody in the middle. On the one side of things, you got your Stephon Diggs and your Mac Hollins, your KB. And on the other side of it, you got your 2 sophomores, Boutte, Pop, and then him. That's obviously 8 guys. We're not going to carry 8 guys in the wide receiver room, but Chisholm, I think you forget if it was Dower Moonshine hinted at this, but it's obviously true. We're going to have to wait until rookie minicamp and then training camp. And if Chisholm does ball out, he somehow, some way gets reps with the ones and he balls out, then a lot to make the roster. But the Pats have signed a UDFA every year for the last 20 years. But to say Chisholm is a lock is to not know football. He's obviously not a lock, but
he's not a lock, but
I want to see the kid make the team, and considering the shit we've had, I mean, do not nobody ever say the name Tyquan Thornton again. Please and thank you.
Speaking of the Taekwondo Thornton comparisons, I don't know if you want to discuss this before I think we might conclude this session because I don't think we might get Collins. But do you think that Pop Douglas has similarities to Jacoby Myers because he's consistent? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
I don't see it. I mean, I understand the whole comparison thing. I do understand the comparison, and I do kind of see it. But as far as consistency, I think we're confusing consistency with playmaking. I think we're getting a bit of a confusion there. He was making plays. Jacoby Myers and Pop Douglas were making plays when nobody else was making plays. They were the receiver when nobody else wanted to be a receiver. Consistency, he's not on the level of Jacoby Myers. He's not. I'm sorry, I don't see it. But I do understand the comparison. I do, as far as playmaker, I do. It's definitely there, but I think we're getting confusion on the whole playmaker and consistency side. I think we're kind of getting a blur in those lines there.
There is the whole, it took so long for Jacoby Myers to score an NFL touchdown, but I mean, he was reliable as fuck. I mean, whenever he was targeted, he caught the ball, and that was before he scored, and people were, this is the most catches in NFL history without a touchdown. I mean, the guy was like a magnet. You threw the ball his way, he caught it. You can't really, Moonshine, I agree with you. You can't say the same thing for Pop Douglas. I mean, as much as he's been a household name with Pats fans, and as much as some of us like him, want to see him succeed, even want to see him signed to the 53-man roster, if I had to think, oh gosh, a comp for Pop Douglas, now I'm not, it'll take me a while to think of one, but here we go. As far as consistency, I mean more that they seem to get about the same amount of yards per season. Interesting. I mean, that's an apt comparison.
Yeah, as far as yardage, they have been about the same, but you also got to think of like utilization too. I mean, again,
like
we go ahead.
I know Josh McDaniels used Jacoby Myers in some instances in like these double pass packages, and I don't think they used Pop Douglas in those kinds of packages. That's just my thought process. But what are your thoughts, Austin, on that comment that Pop Douglas could be related to like Jacoby Myers and talent wise? What are your thoughts, Austin?
Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, I would compare Jacoby Myers more to a Tyler Lockett in the sense of those players are just consistent and they go down at the first sign of contact, where Demario Douglas is more flashy. I mean, I know the big comp was always between him and Zay Flowers just because of their size. But you could easily say Zay Flowers has obviously been the better player. Yeah, I personally don't see it. Consistency, maybe, but again, I'd rather see Pop take a step than just have another middling season.
Interesting. So, yeah, I love Jacoby Myers, and obviously I could go after him because of the stupid play against the Raiders, but that's just one play. There's many other plays that made Jacoby Myers at least reliable. Not like the best, but obviously now he's with Las Vegas, and we're going up against him this upcoming season.
Also, that lateral in the end was on Mac, not Jacoby. I mean, yeah, it was. You could argue it was both guys, but that was.
Well, yeah, we could have a debate on that.
Mac Jones is not tackling Chandler Jones. I'm telling you that right now. So.
No.
Where did that come from?
That was just
Douglas Jacoby Myers type of season he had with the Raiders. It would be cool. It would be cool.
It would be nice. I don't know.
Do I see it happening? No.
Jacoby Myers also had Devontae Adams opposite of him for a lot of it too. So,
and he's able to stay on the field more. The Pop Douglas, even though it's only a couple, he does have some pretty somewhat significant injuries, with a head injury and a hand injury, making him miss some time, and illnesses. So, but that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, but it seems like I don't think we're gonna have Collins today, but I want to thank all of you guys for joining in here for this edition of NE Patriots Talk. I apologize that there were some audio glitches, there were some technical issues here and there, but
Dow, no apologies. That's my fault. I've told you guys my flipping. I don't know.
Technical difficulties.
Exactly. Technical difficulties. They drive me crazy. They drive everybody crazy. And I'm just wondering if you guys got my note about the practice squad. It is 17 guys.
yeah, 17.
Yeah.
So it's 16, but the only way you can have 17 is if one of them is an international player.
Oh.
What? And where did you find?
That's right.
Where did you? Where's this from, Austin?
This is the NFL thing. Like
it's a new rule they made in 2024. That's why, like, standard, it's still 16, but like in our case with the Patriots, we just signed.
Oh, that's right. I did hear that. I did hear that the other day.
France.
It's about international players. Yeah. I did. I heard that. That's a new rule from like a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear. You're right. I did hear about that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, even though that we had audio issues, it doesn't matter. At least we have a good conversation. At least I would try to want to make it concise. And obviously,
one of the 17 spots is reserved for an international player. Yep.
But yeah, as I was saying, once again, thank you all of you guys for joining here on this session. Unless you want to get a final calls for Collins are in the chat for questions and comments about the wide receivers we have today. And it looks like we have Thomas in the chat. Let's bring him in and see what his thoughts on the wide receivers are. Let's bring him in. How are we doing, Thomas?
Good, thanks.
So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the current wide receivers have?
I mean, it's a good wide receiver so far, honestly.
Like any wide receivers that jump to you, like they pop out to you, like any ones that you think that could potentially make the 53-man roster?
Painfully obvious. Diggs, frickin' Williams, the rookie we picked up. But I still think we might give Keyshawn Boutte a chance because we haven't used him the right way. I think that with frickin' McDaniels on the side here, we should keep it the right way here.
Yeah, I hope McDaniels could use Keyshawn Boutte properly. Even I know for a fact that Boutte had Bill O'Brien and AVP as their offensive coordinators, but I know for a fact that Vrabel and the regime, they never drafted Keyshawn Boutte, so basically they don't know much about him. So this is like a question mark. What are your thoughts, everyone else, about potentially that Keyshawn Boutte could make a comeback with Josh McDaniels?
I think that's. Go ahead, Moonshine.
I definitely think it's a possibility. I do believe that it's not the kind of player as far as style and maybe even build that McDaniels would probably really have the most plays for. But I do believe with an offensive coordinator like him, and again, the veteran in the room now, I think he has a shot. I think that's a shot of making a good year. If he doesn't, probably going to be on him. It may be a kind of, maybe this guy isn't panning out like we thought he would. Maybe he's a one-type wonder. But I hope it happens. I hope he shows us something this season because he did good last season. I hope he can continue.
Okay. How about you, Austin? Do you think that Keyshawn Boutte can make a comeback with Josh McDaniels being as our OC?
So I wouldn't call it a comeback because I feel like he's already proven himself. If anything, he's just gonna get better. I would say something where it's like Poke, that's more of a comeback where he played like shit and now he's gonna, try and improve on that. I would just say I do think McDaniels will find a way to utilize Boutte. I mean, I don't know how you look at last year's team and go into this year going, yeah, Boutte can't do anything. Like that was our best receiver, hands down. So
Yeah, you can't do that. And McDaniels is, it bothers me to see this Chetto McDaniels doesn't know how to, utilize a wide receiver. And that's like, they're talking about McDaniels, the coach, versus McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, who are entirely
Big
different guys.
difference. Big difference.
And I think Boutte, which is why I'm saying keep Boutte. And if you have to let one of these sophomore guys go, let him go, because he's poised for a breakout season with, especially with this improved O-line and in a second year of Drake May. Seeing him on the practice field is going to be super exciting, and seeing him taking an NFL field in the regular season is going to be even more so.
So Thomas, any predictions of like which of the wide receivers could be like your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3 for the Patriots starting lineup?
I know for a fact Diggs is my wide receiver 1, honestly. Wide receiver 2 is going to be difficult. I would put Kyle Williams in here because he's a great wide receiver at college. I would see him put him as a wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. I would pick up. I would put. I don't know, to be honest. I say, who do we pick up from Buffalo?
Matt Collins?
Matt
Collins. Yeah, Matt Collins.
The thing with what are your thoughts on Matt Collins being your wide receiver 3? Because he could be like your special teamer. I think there would be instances where he could be it on the offense, but what are your thoughts if he could be like a wide receiver 3 on the starting lineup?
Possibly the same role as what he did at Buffalo. When he played against us here, he's like a nuisance. That's how I could put it this way. I know people can disagree with this. He could read routes good, but honestly, he's a versatile weapon that Drake could actually depend if he is good or not. So I'd rather take my chances.
Anyone else's thoughts?
I'd honestly have to disagree a little bit. I believe Matt Collins is going to be more like that certain package type receiver, unlike the more heavier set formations. Maybe you need to get that critical first down. He can be that guy to get a good lead block. Maybe be out there for like a potential like hitch down for a touchdown possibly. But as far as him being like a top 3 receiver on this team, I don't see him sniffing that spot. The only way I see that happening is like there's like an injury or 2 on the team, and I pray that doesn't happen. But I honestly have to disagree on that.
Yeah, and I just have to shit on this every time I say. Oh, it's like basically. Oh, Matt Collins is gonna kick Boutte off the roster. I've seen some people say that, and it's like, huh? I mean, do you like even realize how different these guys' styles are? Did you watch the games last year? And I mean, obviously, they had both on the up years, but completely different, used completely different formations and things like that. So I do not believe that Boutte's potential spot will be sacrificed to Matt Collins. And if we do keep Matt Collins, like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing him as a special teamer.
Austin, what are your thoughts on Matt Collins potentially being our wide receiver 3 in the starting lineup?
Yeah, 2 words, not happening.
Just straight to the point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, select packages, maybe a gunner on special teams. Being out there on the kickoffs, kick returns as a blocker, pursuer, I don't know. It'll be tough for me to see him honestly making the team, also with the contract that he has, and just it really depends on if the younger guys can outshine him. Because I think Matt Collins has proven what he can do in the NFL. He's been in the NFL for quite a while, so it's not like we're sitting here going, "Oh, I wonder if we're going to see anything new out of him." It's like pretty cut and dry as to what his skill set is. So it's really up to the rookies to prove to Vrabel why they deserve a spot more than him.
His contract and age is not playing in his favor at this point.
Yeah, about the contract. Yeah, but thank you, Thomas, for joining us in the call. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
No.
Well, thank you as always,
There's
Thomas.
nothing gotta be here.
Okay, well, thank you, Thomas, for joining us
Yep.
as always, and hopefully we'll see you in the future live streams. But going back to like the wide receivers, I know that we're supposed to end it, but there's one wide receiver that I think could boost up the wide receiver room. I don't know if so. It's been announced that obviously the Jaguars have already released Gabe Davis, and he has been going into several free agent visits, like with the Giants and 49ers. But what are your all thoughts if Gabe Davis could possibly be in the Patriots wide receiver room? What are your thoughts before we end the session?
One word. No. 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 No, 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 no.
I like Gabe Davis, but we don't need any more competition in this wide receiver room. It's like there was somebody I forget if it was either the Patriots talk on Chat Sports or in our Patriots Discord. It's like, should the Patriots sign Stephon Diggs? And the answer was Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and the answer was pretty much a resounding no.
It's a no for me.
When you consider it's like, okay, Matt, would have I rather signed him initially than Mac Hollins? Absolutely, but we have Mac Hollins. That's said and done. You're not going to cut him for Gabe Davis. You're just not going to do it. That's stupid. You got a McDaniels guy on your roster.
Exactly. How about you, Austin?
Run with what you got.
Yeah, unless we feel like forming the Buffalo Patriots, I think Gabe Davis can.
That one's been going around a little. That one's been going around a little bit. Oh, I love the Buffalo Patriots, and then it's like,
I don't like
those guys we beat up on for 20 years. No, thank you.
They can have their success being the top of the AFC for now, but let's not go that far.
Yeah, let him go back to Buffalo, and then all this happens.
But what was you saying, Justin? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, so I was just, I'm looking at his stats right now. I believe he got hurt last year, and then Jacksonville was like, peace out. But Jacksonville handed him a big 3-year contract.
Yeah, I don't understand the contract.
They're eating that, and then he only put up 230 yards, and it just goes to show the Josh Allen effect.
What was his contract for Jacksonville? Do you know?
Wide receiver 109.
Well, like national, like an NFL ranking 109?
Wait, no, these aren't his. Oh, sugar peas. Where
Gabe Davis was given a 3-year, $39 million. So,
oh, $39 million each year. Okay. So right at 120. Oh, Jesus.
His receiving.
No. 3 years for 39 total.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
And his receiving yards last season were 239.
Nah, I wouldn't get him. Then again, Jacksonville, they're gonna jacks out. Duval is not enjoying it.
No, they're not.
I don't know what Duval's doing.
Wait, Austin, how many yards did you say he had?
Like 239.
Yeah, 239. Yeah, that's what it's. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There's no reason for it.
Yeah. I mean, even his best year is 800 yards, which I'm just looking at that like, poor man's Kendrick Bourne. Like, I would just rather keep Kendrick Bourne.
Are you on ESPN or PFF right now?
ESPN.
Okay.
But that's just like a little gimmicky question. I know we don't want Gabe Davis. I just brought it out just because he's currently available in free agency, and I thought
absolutely not.
Talking wide receivers, it's like, oh, let's add a little fuel to the fire here. Gabe Davis, no.
But by the way, thank you everybody for joining us here on another edition of NE Patriots Talk. I'm excited to do. Comment down below what are your thoughts on which group should we focus on next? Should we focus on the running backs, offensive tackles, cornerbacks? No, offensive linemen, excuse me, or cornerbacks or whatever. Just say someone to comment down below. We would love to get your thoughts on the next topic with the Patriots panel. That's going to be the official name. well, I wouldn't say official name for the Fab Four, but it's just a random idea. But if you want to see all four of us and potentially Chris back on, make sure to like, subscribe. As always, it's completely free to help support the channel. And as always, go Pats!
Go Pats!
Let's go. Go Pats.
Peace.